In our first lesson of Part 2, we'll cover an introduction to supply chain orchestration. Our learning objectives will be as follows. After completing this lesson, you should be able to explain the capabilities of supply chain orchestration, identify the end-to-end flows which are enabled by supply chain orchestration, and explain the change management capabilities within supply chain orchestration. Our first topic discusses supply chain orchestration and gives an overview of the SCO process. This diagram depicts that supply chain orchestration, or SCO for short, is designed to execute and manage complex, cross-product business processes such as internal material transfer, back-to-back, and contract manufacturing. Supply chain orchestration provides the ability to do the following. Receive supply requests from several Oracle Cloud systems, such as Planning Central, Inventory Min-Max Planning, and Global Order Promising. For demand-specific supply requests, such as a back-to-back, SCO combines the demand from order management and the supply suggestion from Global Order Promising to create supply documents. It also launches and manages complex business processes to create supply in the warehouse that would fill the anticipated demands. It performs automated change managements to match supply to demand to ensure that the quantity and fulfillment dates are automatically balanced. In demand-specific supply creation, enterprises aim not to create excess supply or fall short on orders. Balancing supply with demand on order-by-order basis is important for customer satisfaction and for profitability. The automated exception management capability of supply chain orchestration supports these goals. Also, it provides a 360-degree view of the supply creation process and the relationships between the various documents of a flow. The following diagram will illustrate the supply orchestration process flow. The SCO interface receives standard and contract manufacturing data from planning and also from the inventory functionality. It also collects back-to-back supply and demand information from Global Order Promising in order management. The data which is now in the SCO interface is now shared with order management. In order to become a unified format that Order Management Cloud can understand, it goes through what's called transformation. So using Oracle Business Rules, you can use rules to decompose these lines that are being received from the SCO interface. These rules will transform, enrich, and execute so that they can create a format that can be read by Order Management Cloud. The same basis of this data now becomes the SCO supply order, which will be shared with fulfillment systems. In turn, this same information is now held in Order Management Cloud, and the fulfillment lines are held within the orchestration process repository. An orchestration process flow is like a workflow. It takes care of orchestrating or executing tasks on the fulfillment lines of the sales order. So it processes tasks such as making calls like scheduling, reservation, or receiving change management, noting exceptions, and so on. These same functions are also executed out to fulfillment systems through a task layer, which is an extension of the orchestration process definition. These tasks are executed out to your execution systems, which in turn works with inventory, procurement, manufacturing, so that it can receive and relay information from purchase orders, work orders, transfer orders, inventory reservations, and so on. Here we see a functional overview of SCO. The functional components of supply chain orchestration are as follows. Decomposition. This receives supply requests from other systems and invokes a predefined orchestration process to create the supply. Orchestration. This executes the predefined process that creates supply. For example, the process may call a manufacturing system to create or modify a manufacturing work order, or a purchasing system to create or change the quantity on a purchase order. Business services. These are invoked to send and receive messages from an execution system. The overall supply chain orchestration process consists of 4 major steps: receiving requests to create supply, determining which orchestration process to use and launch the process, execute the steps of the orchestration process, and interact with the execution system. This process will be discussed in more detail in the title named Key Setups in Supply Chain Orchestration. This diagram describes how supply chain orchestration receives requests to create supply. When a supply requesting system sends a request to supply chain orchestration, the SCO process starts to process the order. The requesting systems includes the following. Planning Central. This releases a request for a planned order batch to supply chain orchestration. A batch may include standard make, buy, or transfer orders. It may also include make orders for inventory organizations designated as contract manufacturing organizations. GOP and OM. Demand data for back-to-back orders scheduled by order management are sent to supply chain orchestration. When an order is confirmed, GOP sends the supply data to supply chain orchestration. When a back-to-back order is scheduled by OM, it sends the demand data to supply chain orchestration. SCO matches the data received from GOP and OM and treats them as one set of data to launch back-to-back processes. These processes could be back-to-back, make, buy, or transfer processes. Within inventory min-max planning can result in a make, buy, or transfer request to supply chain orchestration. Also manual spreadsheet upload. You can upload transfer order data to send transfer requests to supply chain orchestration. Next, we see how supply chain orchestration prepares the payload to create supply. After receiving a supply request, the next step is to prepare the incoming payload to create supply. The following steps are involved. Attribute mapping. Attributes specific to requesting systems are mapped and transformed to execution system attributes. For example, the supplier ID from Planning Central is transformed to Procurement Systems supplier ID. Evaluation of execution rules. This transfer's requests are evaluated using the execution rules to determine if they are to be processed as a transfer order or as a purchase order. If the decision is to execute it as a standard transfer, then the decision is made whether or not to route it via order management. Then the supply is created. Predefined supply creation process is then selected and launched. Next, supply chain orchestration executes the supply creation process steps. After a predefined supply creation or orchestration process is selected and launched, are executed. For example, the back-to-back process includes the following steps. 1. Application calls to procurement system to create a purchase order. 2. Applications calls to reserve a purchase order against the demand. 3. Supply is then received in the warehouse. The orchestration process execution also includes the following steps. Process planning. At launch, the process schedule is calculated based on the duration of each constituent task. The start and end dates of each process step are determined. Change management. In case of changes in supply or demand, the system responds and makes adjustments to keep supply and demand in balance. And tracking. The status and state of all execution documents are tracked. Lastly, we see how the SCO system interacts with the execution systems. Creation or orchestration process interacts with execution systems to create and manage supply. A payload specific to the target execution is sent to the execution system. Updates from the execution system, such as purchase order status changes or quantity decrease, are received and passed to the orchestration system for change management. Our next section describes the various SCO. Here we see a list of the supported supply chain orchestration business process flows. They are plan to produce contract manufacturing, back-to-back contract manufacturing, back-to-back in-house manufacturing, back-to-back purchasing, back-to-back transfer, and transfer order creation. This diagram shows how supply chain orchestration provides predefined business processes such as contract manufacturing, internal material transfer, and back-to-back fulfillment. In addition, all planned orders for the SCM cloud from Planning Central are routed through supply chain orchestration for document creation. First, the make-to-stock contract manufacturing process. Consider the diagram of make-to-stock contract manufacturing and back-to-back procurement processes. It starts with creating a paired work order and a purchase order. The work order tracks the progress of supply in the contract manufacturer's plant, and the purchase order serves as a contractual agreement between the enterprise and the manufacturing plant. The documents, which are the work order and purchase order, are linked to ensure that their progress are automatically synchronized. This synchronization is facilitated by supply chain orchestration. Also, the back-to-back procurement process. In the back-to-back process, supply chain orchestration provides an end-to-end process that will be explained on the next slide. Here is the back-to-back procurement process. Supply chain orchestration receives a supplier management and order promising applications. The two requests are combined to create an entity called Supply Chain Orchestration Supply Order, which is used to manage the entire process. The back-to-back purchase process is then assigned and launched. The process sends a request to the purchasing system order. After the PO is created, the Supply Chain Orchestration application sends a request to the inventory management system to reserve the supply. There are to manage the supply creation process, but they're not presented here for brevity. You'll learn more about the process in the back-to-back section of this course. Here, we see that supply chain orchestration enables users to assign each to the mode of supply creation, which is optimal for an enterprise. For example, enterprises can reduce costs and extend product offering by engaging contract manufacturers with specialized capabilities for specific items. When supply for these specific items are needed, the supply creation request is routed to the suitable contract manufacturer. This liberates enterprises from having to build manufacturing plants or stocking inventory. By outsourcing specialized capabilities to manufacturing partners, enterprises can also extend their product offering without having to build in-house capabilities. Our next section will describe how automated change management keeps supply and demand balanced. Automation in handling changes keeps demand and supply always in balance. For instance, let's assume that the line quantity order is reduced on the customer's request from 10 to 5 units. Change management capabilities orchestrates these changes immediately to the supply document, such as a purchase order in this example. Now the PO is also updated with a new. In an environment where such changes are not handled, the result would have been suboptimal, with excess inventory being supplied by the vendor. All conveniences that accompany automation would also apply in this case. In organizations where changes are common and require, the possibilities of errors and delays can prove to be bottlenecks in a flawless order fulfillment. The automatic change management capability circumvents the need for manual intervention exception and also precludes delays that could occur because of human intervention. Automated system response is available to change on the demand and supply sides. A comprehensive set of change management rules are defined to address the changes. Automated change management is available for the change scenarios: an increase or decrease in supply quantity, or supply order cancellation, that is, the supplied quantity is reduced to 0. Changes in dates on which the supply will become available, a split in supply, which is the total quantity will become available in more than one delivery. The response to these supply-side changes depends on the type of change and the business process. Slide. Automated change management is also available for the following demand-side change scenarios: cancellation of demand, or increase or decrease in the demand quantity, or a change in the need-by dates. In case of demand-side changes, the change management system attempts to alter the supply to match the demand. If supply cannot be changed to satisfy the new conditions, then an exception occurs and it notifies the fulfillment system. In this case, the change management logic depends on the business process which is used to create supply. We'll discuss this in detail for the supported business process, such as contract manufacturing and back-to-back, a little later. Here is that example of an automated change management. Here, the supplier reduces the quantity. The automated change management system attempts to create supply to fill the gap in supply. If supply cannot be created in time, an exception is raised in the order management system, that is, the order scheduling system. The exception then the order fulfillment manager.